Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to VG Myths, the online internet video game TV show that likes what ludonarrative dissonance is doing but figures it could use a few pointers. Uncharted Drake's Fortune is a cinematic platforming third-person shooter in which our ostensibly likable protagonist guns down hundreds of mercenaries who could clearly use a break. Which is why tonight we'll be trading in our guns and much more politely punching and exploding them. Can you beat the Uncharted Minimum Gun Challenge? But first, it's Pop Computer Unboxing time! Ironside Computers, in exchange for this sponsorship, offered me this masterpiece based on my original character, Bronze On. Iconic suit on the front, head silhouette on the side, stylish GPU plate, and complete with matching cable colors. And I wouldn't expect you to believe this, but it also has a computer inside! With an Intel i9 processor, 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM, 1 terabyte solid-state drive, and an RTX 3070 graphics card. My prior PC had been lagging behind for a few years, and I'd basically been putting the entire concept of PC gaming on hold until I got a replacement. The age was very much felt during any editing of 1080 video, or even 720 video with some minor effects added, basically requiring I re-render a preview every time I made any changes. The video you're currently watching is 1080, was edited entirely on the new PC, and has comparatively been far smoother without any extra rendering yet required. I also accidentally wasted an entire week playing video games in a very explicitly non-business related capacity, and can safely confirm the graphics were big and the frame rates were a lot. This will, of course, also accidentally be very important for actual business purposes. I'll finally be able to accurately represent a few PC games I may or may not have videos planned for, including newer games like Immortals Phoenix Rising, VR games like Half-Life Alyx, and famed beast of PC gaming, Rockman 3. Disclaimer, these videos will only actually finally be made if I am good at video games, which I am not. Special thanks to Ironside Computers for the much needed, much appreciated upgrade. With contractual obligations sorted, we can get to the rules. We'll be playing the PS4 port of Uncharted Drake's Fortune, attempting to reach the end credits while firing as few shots as possible. What counts as a shot is as simple as we could ask for. The game includes a total shots fired statistic which counts everything the game considers to be a shot, so of course we'll be using this statistic as our shot counter. No amount of semantics can possibly change what is officially, legally a shot. Additionally, to make the run as interesting as possible, we're adding on a secondary scoring criteria: the number of chapters beaten on Crushing, the highest available difficulty on a fresh save file. Lower shot count still takes priority, but if we can clear a chapter on Crushing without making any more shots, we have to. It's worth noting there does exist an even higher difficulty, Brutal, but in order to unlock it, we need to have already beaten every chapter on Crushing. On a fresh save file with fresh statistics, Crushing is the hardest we can hope for. And a couple final notes. Explorer difficulty refuses to save statistics entirely, and thus is banned out of necessity. All the non-cosmetic in-game cheats are also banned for obvious reasons, though feel free to play as the correct character if you somehow manage to get 60 treasures by the end of this thing. With the rules set, let's get this run started. Unless otherwise noted, the difficulty will be set to Crushing. Chapter 1 immediately begins with a group of enemies on boats in the distance, and grenades are still a few chapters away. You might try to play smart and jump into the water to climb their boat, but the devs thought of that and included a zombie pirate who will drag you down to the depths. But as you might have noticed, our AI-controlled partner Elena is fully capable of gunning them down herself, albeit a bit apprehensively. After that first wave, every other enemy boards your boat, officially giving you permission to punch them in the face. Even on Crushing, they tend to be pretty bad at defending themselves, letting us easily move on to Chapter 2. This chapter doesn't feature any enemies whatsoever, but nonetheless still includes moments where the developers explicitly intend on the player firing shots. First with this explosive barrel that must be shot to lower a bridge. But I didn't get where I am today by listening to the devs. I got where I am by stealing from speedrunners. Uncharted features one incredibly easy, incredibly exploitable trick, which we'll be exploiting as shamelessly as possible. If you rapidly aim and lower your gun over and over in just the right way while moving towards a wall in just the right way, Nate will follow the laws of physics in exactly the incorrect way, phasing straight through. This is easier on some walls than others, and doesn't necessarily let us clip into literally every wall, but it will at least let us clip through a good 95% of them. Instead of shooting the explosive barrel, clip into the right wall where you'll see there's a thin slope leading to the upper area. Carefully follow it and jump up, where you can continue the level. You might feel bad about leaving Sully behind, but don't worry, he's apparently capable of phasing through solid matter too. There are several more dev-intended required shots along the way, but all of them can be skipped. We finish Chapter 2 shotless and move on to Chapter 3. After a lengthy interactive cutscene, we head into the game's first traditional combat encounters. These groups are pretty small and have weak weaponry, but charging head-on is still gonna get you killed if you're in the line of sight of even a couple enemies. In the interest of saving time, punch out any enemies when a safe opportunity presents itself, but otherwise hang back and Elena can shoot them out for you after a few minutes of blatantly missing on purpose. In the final encounter, there isn't any completely safe cover to camp behind, so instead hide inside the cover. Enemy bullets are incapable of traveling through walls, so if you put the controller down, Elena will eventually win the battle single-handedly, clearing Chapter 3. As you can probably tell by now, letting the game play itself is going to be a recurring strategy. Chapter 4 begins with a padlocked gate that requires one bullet to open, so obviously we phase through it instead. But unlike the last couple times, this isn't just to skip firing the bullet. Enemy spawns are often scripted based on the player doing certain required actions, one such action being the shooting of this padlock. If the player doesn't shoot the padlock, the enemies in the next couple sections don't appear at all, allowing us to walk through this suspiciously long stretch of waist-high cover that we'll never learn of its true purpose. Along the way, you'll finally be able to grab your first grenades. In this area, the way up this wall normally becomes available after killing every enemy, but speedrunners already found an alternative way up. Roll into this corner to get some extra height and jump up to grab the upper ledge. After a bit more wall clipping, you'll eventually get back on the game's intended script when a truck ambushes you. Rather than shooting the explosive barrel, throwing a grenade is just as effective. Up ahead, two enemies will shoot at you from above and there isn't a safe path around them, but while hanging on the ledge, you're close enough to get a grenade up. For obvious reasons, grenades are incredibly important in this run, and you can only hold up to 4 at a time, so restock whenever you get the opportunity. At the next firefight, clip into the jungle and you can walk past all the enemies out of bounds while all their bullets fruitlessly bounce off the vague concept of a wall of vines. The rest of the chapter will be completely free of enemies, allowing you to ascend into Chapter 5. After a couple more safe clips, kill this turret with a grenade, climb up and face the next room, then reverse and jump back down. By jumping up there, we triggered a checkpoint, which will be very useful since we're about to start an unavoidable combat encounter. This encounter can be momentarily avoided if you clip in a decent distance from the intended entrance. Winning the battle here makes the winch at the other side of the room usable, and while that winch is supposedly just for opening a gate, it also activates the winches in the next room, which raise the water level. Luckily, if we go up to the gate, the combat encounter will trigger, and if we go through the gate, the game assumes we must have won and automatically declares the battle over. Since the encounter is officially over, enemies will stop spawning in, just leaving you to deal with the one guy who spawned in too fast to get the memo. Punish him for his punctuality and use the winch to finish the level as intended. As Chapter 6 begins, we follow the speedrun route to skip through the walls without encountering enemies until reaching this courtyard. If we clip our way through from here, we can reach the end of the level without triggering any checkpoints or encountering a single enemy, but upon doing so, the end cutscene will refuse to play. That cutscene is our only ticket out of the chapter. In order to make that cutscene playable, we must trigger the start of the courtyard fight. Step back into the prior room and grab the grenades on the table, which for whatever reason takes your checkpoint to the right spot. This has all been on the speedrun route so far, but get ready for some VG Myths original shenanigans. After walking a short distance into the courtyard, a gigantic wave of enemies will spawn in, complete with turret. We need to reach this room and clip past the door within to walk up the stairs, at which point the next checkpoint will trigger. Running straight there is technically a workable strategy, but a terribly stupid one, and actually winning the fight is also obviously a terrible idea. We'll instead be taking a safer, much less direct route. This wall is slightly before the trigger point for the battle, letting us clip in without activating it. Our path forward from here is blocked, but not the path backward. Hang on to the edge of the ground itself and start shimmying back. This ledge floor functions mostly the same as any dev-intended ledge, and in fact functions even better than the devs intended, allowing Nate to sidle along in ways only slightly more physics-breaking than the usual. Eventually you'll be blocked from going any further, which ever coincidentally happens almost directly across from our destination. You can now climb up and officially begin the courtyard battle with a huge head start. Nobody will have the time to stop you from clipping through the wall to the next checkpoint. There will be a couple more required battles, but they're both relatively small scale and you'll have 4 grenades to work with to beat both of them, which should be plenty. But unfortunately, our shotless run will now have to officially become a minimalist run. There's a forced sequence after the cutscene in which we're automatically entered into aim mode and completely incapable of exiting it, moving, or tossing grenades. If we never take the shot, we'll be locked into an infinite game over time loop as Elena endlessly ragdolls to her death. With one required shot taken, we head into Chapter 7, which, as you can see, is a rail shooter. No, God no. With the difficulty set to easy, we can now survive without actually having to play the game. While you are inevitably going to die if you don't do anything, you'll usually reach a checkpoint before it happens, allowing you to shuffle off and back onto this mortal coil over and over and make progress each time. There are, however, a few exceptions. In this checkpoint, someone who is extremely dedicated to his job will attempt to drive directly into you, guaranteeing a death unless you shoot him. The turret thankfully has a grenade launcher, which does legally count as a shot, but it's at least preferable to the machine gun. The very next checkpoint isn't much better. I left the game to play itself for well over an hour, but never managed to get even close to the end. While I expect it might be possible to get by shotless through sheer brute force, the amount of time necessary seems to be ludicrously astronomically high, and I was kind of hoping to get this video out before the heat death of the universe. Instead, I chose to make one very precise sacrifice. Twiddle your thumbs until entering the cave. When the Jeep and bike reach the archway, fire a single grenade shot, then sit back and drink a latte while waiting to find out if you're a dead corpse. If it turns out you are a dead corpse, immediately exit to the home menu, quit the game, and relaunch it. This will prevent that singular shot from saving in the statistics, allowing you to try again with no consequence. I do recommend backing up your save files just in case, but I personally never failed to roll the clock back in my attempts. With shot 3 officially fired, don't get too comfy because the end of this checkpoint contains a wall of boulders which Elena is not quite capable of phasing through. Thus, we are immediately required to fire shot number 4. With the final checkpoint banked, the rest of the level can be completed shotless. After reaching Chapter 8, head back into the main menu and re-enter through Chapter Select with the difficulty set to crushing, ensuring you'll get the credit for it. After quote-unquote winning the first firefight, you can safely board the jet-like water propulsion device. We now have 2 options. The first is to drive straight through the upcoming firefights, weaving through a hail of bullets and explosive barrels in the hopes of making it to safety just by the skin of our teeth. This is incredibly dumb. Instead, just use the easier strategy of shooting everybody. After safely murdering our way to the far dock, we've got a long series of difficult firefights ahead of us, and Elena will unfortunately be staying behind, leaving us entirely alone. The trigger for the next battle is through this corner, which we can cut by clipping into and out of the adjacent building. This isn't actually to help us continue the chapter though, we're just making a quick stop to grab some grenades. Walk back to and clip inside this building again. We'd normally zipline into this building at the very end of Chapter 9. Unfortunately, since we got here early, they haven't quite finished building the floor. But there's a workaround. Jump down, enter photo mode, move the camera back through the lower doorway, then exit photo mode. Jump down, enter photo mode, move the camera back through the lower doorway, then exit photo mode. If done fast enough, the floor will temporarily exist, albeit invisibly, giving you a short window of time to walk into the next room, technically beating both Chapter 8 and Chapter 9 simultaneously. Follow the path and clip into this upper gate, successfully ensuring the guard standing immediately in front of it will lose his job. Rather than shooting the padlock on the next door, you can, of course, just clip through it, but the same cannot be done to get past the next padlock door located past a gap. Rather than shooting it, you can blow off the lock by lobbing a grenade above it, which will drop down and explode in midair. Entering the next room completes Chapter 10 and enters Chapter 11, but this room is one of the most dangerous in the game. The clip glitch has little practical use except at the far wall, which is protected by a ridiculous number of enemies plus mounted turret. Jump down, hide in cover, and wait for your opportunity to punch out the Magnum guy. Keep going along the right side of the room with the ultimate goal of reaching this cover. The enemies on the opposite side of the room will usually try to circle around and flank you, so you'll have to act fast. Take out the turret with a grenade, advance, and take out the next 2 enemies with grenades as well. Immediately make a run past the stairs and start clipping. You'll probably be one bullet away from death, but you can safely jump down into the next room where you'll face no more resistance before the next checkpoint. One short and easy encounter later, we'll complete Chapter 11 and enter Chapter 12, riding another ski-like water propulsion device. Of course, just like last time, the solution is to pull the trigger on your gun as fast as possible, blindly shooting thousands of bullets and making quick progress in our minimum gun challenge. Okay, well, hold on one second. Why are you making that face? Oh, wow. I should probably explain. Remember, we're basing this run entirely on the game's own shots fired statistics, since arguing against the game itself over whether or not the game's mechanics are actually the game's mechanics would be pretty silly. Equally silly are the game's mechanics, because for whatever reason, neither Elena's grenade launcher nor her pistol increment the total shots fired counter. Interestingly, though we aren't legally firing any shots, we are legally hitting things with our shot. So according to the game, for every bullet I fired, 34 of them hit a target. I should note that we could probably drive through both these sections without using guns with a ton of luck and skill, but personally I think the idea of beating a chapter gunless by doing this is too stupid an idea to turn down. We finish Chapter 12 and head into Chapter 13. After some minor clipping to skip an encounter, we reach the top of this hill. As you can tell, it's extremely open and dangerous down there, but there's a safer way to jump down than going directly. Clip into the trees on the left, walk that direction a little bit, and you'll drop to a floor just below the courtyard. If you angle and time it right, you can jump from here up onto the courtyard floor. If you were to jump down the normal way, more enemies would spawn in to ambush you, but this way you can let Elena kill the two guys currently hanging around, then run straight for the next checkpoint unimpeded. In the next area, we can do another photo mode skip, officially beginning Chapter 15, and thus beating Chapters 13 and 14 simultaneously. And just as cool, Chapter 15 itself largely has the player going around in one giant circle, eventually arriving on the other side of the gate at the start. That gate is physically incapable of stopping us, letting us very quickly clip to the end of Chapter 15.
Fill me with the power of darkness. Light!
Within Chapter 16, we'll encounter the absolute hardest battle in the entire minimum gun run, starting us suspended in the center of a room with no safe clipping path whatsoever. Plus, we aren't even allowed to make a run for it, or else Helena will spontaneously ragdoll. No shenanigans this time, we have to kill absolutely everybody before continuing. But rather than doing that now, shenanigans! Exit to the main menu, head to Chapter Select, and boot up Chapter 14 in easy mode. Since we already beat this chapter on crushing by way of skipping over it entirely, there's nothing stopping us from returning to it on a lower difficulty. With the enemies offering almost no resistance, we can grab a few grenades, reach the chapter's last checkpoint, and switch the difficulty back to crushing, our grenades still intact. Do the same clips as before and make your way back to the battle. It's still going to be ridiculously tough, but with these grenades you can take out a big chunk of the enemies for free. With a bit of a path cleared, you can head forward to better cover, where Elena will follow. From there, she should be able to take everybody else out herself. The next checkpoint is thankfully much easier. Ignore everybody and run straight through, finishing Chapter 16 and entering Chapter 17, where we team up with Eddie Raja against a new enemy type, the Descendants. The first checkpoint will only pass after 15 Descendants die, and Descendants are completely immune to melee attacks. We have no choice but to run and cower in a corner and let Eddie's AI do everything for you until he's inevitably overwhelmed, cursing your name with his final breath. With Eddie gone, we pass a checkpoint and very thankfully no longer have to kill anything. Just run around in circles for a few seconds and Elena will lower the escape rope, letting us run into Chapter 18. Personally, I'm done with the survival horror, and there luckily just so happens to be a super simple and incredibly lucrative skip in the very first room. Congratulations, you have now entered Chapter 20, completing both Chapter 18 and 19. The largest firefight in the entire game is in the courtyard here, but there's no sense helping out Sully since as far as I'm aware, he died 15 chapters ago. A few clips later, we enter Chapter 21, where once again there's no reason to bother engaging with anything. Run past the Descendants, punch out the guards on the stairs, and jump onto El Dorado to enter the finale, Chapter 22. This is explicitly a gunfight where firing shots is required, so politely give Navarro a rain check and phase out of existence. You can safely skip all the way to the end of the ship and up the walkway, at which point Navarro will teleport and punish us for our unsportsmanlike conduct by taking away our shotgun, forcing us to win the battle using only our fists. Oh no. With El Dorado and friend thoroughly thrown in the trash, the Uncharted Drake's Fortune minimum gun run officially ends with 4 total shots and 21 out of 22 chapters completed on crushing. Before heading out, very special thanks to Uncharted speedrunner Rockki, whose beginner speedrunning tutorial I referenced heavily throughout the run. And finally, special thanks to all Patreon backers, including all the bugs Yugi has killed: Andrew Seibert, Anon42, RB Drock, Solon Zero, Leslam, Chris Nate, Alexander Botkin, Anu Akrira, David 20 Covers, Vincent Hall, Alex Nelson, Lively Leader, The Quacky Gamer, Luminescent Dragon, Jason Ilges, Vaith, Rory Kelly, Lane Robert Leishman, Liddy Kitty, Jace Harsh, Crustacean Creep, Queen Sapphire, Plum Sweater, Procrastinating Destiny, Epic Evan 921, Alex Likes to Eat, Ye Old Foreign, Rundum Goy, Misfunctional, Cam the Can 1, Athena Kalita, an ASCII drawing of a thumbs up to congratulate Game Champ on their success. Unless it was a failure, then it's thumbs down. Zoe Multicore, Aaron Bailey, The Green Scorpion, Game Champ says trans rights are human rights, Xander Kozak, Celestial Cookie, 8-Bit Mischievous, Boomboxy, John Miller, Curbs D50, Jorg, Damien R, Yap Alonzo, Wave It, World's Slowest Game of Chess, no longer playing D4 like my life depends on it, but instead E5. I saw EXD5, I just didn't like it. Star Captain Eli Shaba of Clan Ghost Bear, Chronos Anthem, Dwaro25, Blue Moon von Idaho, Britface, The Nonchalant Nacho, Bragger Jester, Kid Very Gucci, Wispy Syrup, Riley Anderson, Arcombe, Santunian Baby, Salty Sweet, Slowest Game of Chess, Black Waiting for White, Officer Slarg, what's that noise? Have you ever considered not being bad at video games, Miss Champ? Nova Sinique says hashtag landback, Sulfuric Boss, Fabi, Zithuggle, pronounced like Zithuggle. Yes, Game Champ pronounced my name correctly. Zandragon, Greg Campbell, Nikki Wiki 34, Eric Barron, Zero, Mars Becker, XEY, Fyra, Shadowfire 638, Silktoid, IB Mackey, drawn by AJ2, the return of the haha funny meme name. Amphizid, Admiral Ampersand, Literal Cat, Sylvie Wing Cat Girl is gay and doesn't go to bed on time. Reblog if you too are gay and or don't go to bed on time. Eve Weaver Cable, I think it's time we blow this scene, get everybody in their stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam. Flip Chicken, Sound of Rain, Ryan Garvey, Milk Succubus, Grand Nero. If you download the video, then it will be an offline internet TV show. Game Champ madam, you heckin' idiot, it's not Antitetto Eru Dorado no Hi-Ho, it's Uncharted Drake's Fortune. I have no nose and I must sneeze. Fireblade 974, literally Judas, now I only want to triumph. Norahana, Zebras. According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way a bee should be able to fly. Its wings are too small to get its fat lip. Beam Animates, Charles Custer Agorat, The Insane One, Nathan Riddle, Maria 11, Sorio 99, Jack Silverson, Dakota Riggs. Paleontologists still can't agree on if whether or not Tyrannosaurus Rex had feathers. Infamous Piece, Miles Edgelord, Chris Chandler, Airtide, Mackenzie, Drees, Lily Sapp, Sin Parks, Colin Monsma, Darknet, Tea Coffee. Champ doesn't like to say Funzy Runzy. Despite what Calibrian Ariel would have you believe, IDAC begins with a capital I instead of a lowercase l and is pronounced. Game Champ says Superman 64 is better than Breath of the Wild. Carlo Calcaterra, Brisky, Dr. Feed, Margaret Josephine, Brandon Weller, Madrox07. Friendly reminder that it's not normal to sneeze. I have never sneezed. F. Amadon, Release Idola LP4, T. Brunelli 200. Quiet Misdreavus, Pugmaster, Leverage, Lemon Planter, Pixel G, High Princess Aranus, Nitsua Gamer, Nitsa Gamer. Fluff System, rekindled in the dying flames of capitalism, Corporal High. Grotchus, Ethan, J. Franklin, Durgel, Alex S. Warrior, Fadooge. No, Game of Champikun, this video does not suck. Stop being self-deprecating, Bubabaka. Character limit, Supporting Game Champ until the Patreon name list is longer than the challenge itself. Cutie Monica and my D&D character whose name no one can seem to pronounce, Nemea. Let me know how much this video sucks and how to improve in the comments below. An ancient Mesopotamian thank you for watching and get out of my house.